Jaden was born at the Leicester Royal Infirmary in June 2004. The youngest of five, his parents separated when he was less than a year old, but both still played key roles in his life. He was in the top set for nearly all of his subjects at school. He had a well-preened flat top and a lovable smile. In 2010, his father was deported to Jamaica. 4 years later, Jaden's then 14-year-old sister, Lee, wrote a letter to the Home Office. "Now there's no role model for my brother to look up to. He looks at other kids going to football matches and the park with their dads and looks at me and says, 'That should be me and Dad.'" Jaden's father, Julian, did everything he could to stay present in his son's life, with regular Skype calls and a summer spent in Jamaica, but it was tough to replicate day-to-day parenting from afar. From 2011 to 2018, Moodie and his family were living in Nottinghamshire. In March 2018, by the time he was 13, he was handed a youth conditional caution after police seized an air-powered pistol, a Rambo-style knife, and cannabis during an altercation in Nottingham. From 2016, he began to have a troubled time at secondary school, leading to suspensions and other disciplinary measures. His mother's decision to homeschool her son after numerous temporary exclusions from a school in Nottingham, where he was one of only 3 black pupils. She feels that he was the victim of institutional racism, with black Caribbean children 5 times more likely to be permanently excluded from school than their white British counterparts. It's unlikely she was entirely imagining things. Jaden's absence from regular schooling, with only 3 out of his last 22 months spent in school. The time spent away from school constitutes a significant risk to children who are vulnerable to criminal exploitation, in the way Jaden was. However, by the end of the summer of 2017, these arrangements were beginning to break down, eventually leaving Moodie with a lot of unsupervised time, a pattern that repeated at regular intervals for the rest of his life. In April 2018, his mother decided to move him to Waltham Forest to live initially with his grandmother, while she applied to be rehoused in Waltham Forest from Nottinghamshire. 4 months later, Jada called police to say she had been threatened on her doorstep by a 16-year-old boy who told her Jaden owed him money, and if he did not pay, she and her son would be harmed. 10 months after that, she complained to social services that she had handed £300 to stop the boys from threatening her. She also said she had found a large knife in her home, a clear sign. She thought that her son was being groomed into a life of crime. Despite being close to male role models like his uncles, the teenager was soon excluded from his new school in Chingford and lured back into criminality. There was a delay in processing his mother's application for a place for Moodie at a Waltham Forest High School in May 2018. The initial response to his mother's application for housing in Waltham Forest was slow, and no new action was taken after her request that her request for rehousing be reopened by Waltham Forest in August until the end of October 2018. A potentially pivotal event occurred in October 2018 when Moodie, referred to as Child C in the report, was found in a cuckoo house, a property taken over by drug dealers, often inhabited by a vulnerable tenant in Bournemouth, with a 17-year-old from Waltham Forest. Dorset police found Moodie at the property in personal possession of 39 wraps of drugs, a mobile phone, and £325 in cash. He was suspected to be involved in county lines drug dealing. After being interviewed in custody, he was ultimately driven back to his grandmother's home in Waltham Forest at 3 a.m. The coordination of services between Bournemouth and London was not as strong as it could have been, based on a concept in education that describes an unplanned chance for a breakthrough with a child. After Julian's enforced departure, the family worked hard to keep Jaden safe, but they say that while living in Nottingham, he was badly bullied and experienced racist abuse at school. They say he was excluded when he defended himself against the attacks. The family took a lot of steps to try to keep him safe, such as the homeschooling, a summer in Jamaica with his father, so that he might be out of the reach of adults who would exploit him, and his mother's pleas for help. 2 months before Jaden's death, he was excluded permanently from school. One of his teachers had been shown a Snapchat of him pulling an imitation firearm from his school rucksack. This triggered a flurry of attention from several factions within social services. Bailey received 2 separate visits within 72 hours. He admitted appearing in a Snapchat video with an imitation firearm. Jaden was the youngest member of the Beaumont crew. Waltham Forest has been carved up into various bitter postcode rivalries. The crew is the biggest and longest established gang with about 100 members and is based in the E10 area. They generally operates in the Beaumont estate, where they take their name from. The younger members are ages 12, who are becoming increasingly active in street-level crime, both as victims and perpetrators. Molly Boys Gang is based in the E10 and E17 postcode areas. Molly Boys has a number of rival gangs, including the Beaumont crew, to which Jaden Moodie was linked. On the afternoon, before being stabbed, Jaden had called a friend to tell him, "I'm in beef again." Iop Magdalene and 4 other boys were part of the Molly Boys gang, and on the 8th of January, were cruising the streets around Bickley Road in a stolen Mercedes. They had covered their hands and faces, armed themselves with weapons, and were looking for trouble. Jaden was in the area at the same time, having visited a youth bus run by Christian charity, Worth Unlimited. He then set off down Bickley Road on a moped. Magdalene and his accomplices spotted the teenager and drove the Mercedes right at him. Moodie was knocked off his moped. Magdalene, wearing yellow washing-up gloves, got out of the car with 3 other boys and repeatedly attacked the 14-year-old in the back while he lay on the ground. The relative naivety of Jaden's attackers was highlighted in the way they tried to get rid of the evidence in the moments after the attack. The obviously damaged Mercedes, which had Jaden's blood on the bonnet, was abandoned in a cul-de-sac 5 minutes away from Bickley Road. Blood-stained yellow rubber gloves worn by Magdalene and the weapon used in the attack, both covered in the defendant's DNA, were put down a drain near the abandoned car. Magdalene was seen on CCTV buying cigarettes at Bercy Food and Wine Shop 10 minutes after Jaden was murdered, while the t-shirt, jeans and Nike Air Max trainers he wore during the attack were found in a burnt pile opposite the shop, in the grounds of St. Mary's Church on Church Road. In court, forensic practitioner Ian Hounsell, who was nearby, told jurors he could hear the teenager grunting and that he noticed several slit marks at the back of his jacket. He administered CPR, but the 14-year-old was no longer alive. Giving evidence, the defendant told the court how he sold drugs for and with the Molly Boys, including county lines deals in Basingstoke, Ipswich and Andover. The evidence heard in court was enough to convince jury that Magdalene was guilty. The Met said it was committed to bringing all 5 people in the Mercedes to justice. Jaden was such a loyal friend, says his mum. "We talked on the phone in January. He loved to help people. She's keen for the world to know her real son." Jada believes that, if there are people on our streets capable of killing a 14-year-old child, then no one is safe, no more children need to die. Jada has set up the Jaden Moodie Movement Foundation to provide safe spaces for vulnerable children and young adults.